Oh, hi. Okay.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to go ahead and get started soon. So today we're going to be talking about self-care and resiliency and moving away from self-indulgence and into self-preservation. So I just would like to introduce our speaker for today. And it's going to be Tracey Post, who's the founder and CEO of TLP Consulting Group, which is the umbrella organization for TLP Counseling, TLP Consulting, and the Princeton Center for Mind-Body Healing. Her firm provides training, professional development, consultation, clinical psychotherapeutic services, and clinical supervision for individuals as well as public and private organizations. Focus areas include trauma interventions for individuals and organizations, trauma-informed practice, secondary traumatic stress, and the impact of trauma on helping professionals. Other areas of expertise include sexual health, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, healthy developmental sexuality, sexual abuse, relationship violence, and assisting organizations with incorporating gender affirmative practices. Tracey is an ASEX certified sexuality therapist and an IATP certified trauma specialist and a New Jersey certified clinician and supervisor. TLP Counseling and the Princeton Center for Mind-Body Healing offer evidence-based treatment for individuals and couples experiencing trauma and/or sexuality concerns and difficulties. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Tracey, who's going to teach us all sorts of skills to help us with our self-care and our resiliency during this time.
Thank you, Ebony, and thanks everyone for joining on this beautiful but rainy Friday in May. I'm really happy to be with you all to talk a little bit about self-care, resiliency, and to spend some time maybe increasing our toolbox of self-care techniques. I love this quote by Audre Lorde: self-care is not about self-indulgence. It is about self-preservation. I think that's a really powerful message, but especially in our culture today, we sometimes have a hard time distinguishing between self-care and selfishness. But before we jump into that, I think it'd be really lovely if we ground together and start off our time engaging in a self-care reset breath. This is a very simple tool that you can have with you all the time that can help you bring yourself back to calm, kind of groundedness. And so if you'd like to play, I invite you to do a couple things. I'm going to talk you through the process and then we'll do it together. So the reset breath is a neurobiological response that retrains our system, calms down our sympathetic nervous system, and ratchets up in a good way our autonomic nervous system. That's our calming response. And it's just very simply breathing with your exhale a little bit longer than your inhale. So in a minute, I'm going to talk you through 3 of those breaths. I'm going to leave you some space to do 2 or 3 breaths on your own, and we'll just see what happens. So if you'd like to play, before we begin, you can just check in right now with your stress level and note to yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no anxiety and distress at all, 10 being the most you've ever felt. Where are you right now? And then if you want to, exhale completely. Then we're going to inhale to the count of 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then at your own time and in your own pace, go ahead and take 3, maybe 4 more breaths, just allowing your exhale to be a little or a lot longer than your inhale. And whenever that's complete for you, before you come back to looking at the screen, if you're not already, just check in again with that level, noticing if your number has shifted down a little bit, stayed the same, or gotten a little higher. Just gathering some information for your own knowledge. Thanks, everybody. So let's talk a bit together about what makes self-care challenging right now. Here we are in this time of global shifting, of an experience in which none of us has really ever lived through before. What makes self-care challenging in this moment? In a second, Ebony's going to put a poll up on the screen, and we'll all get a chance to get a sense of whether we think self-care is easy now or if it feels more selfish. I think I mixed up which poll I was in. Sorry. So if people don't mind voting, were you taught that self-care is just another word for selfish, or was self-care something that was even discussed? I think we're getting there. Almost everybody's getting a chance to vote, which is super. Looks like there's a, maybe it's shifting a little. So not, I keep waiting for the numbers to change. So it looks like 60, close to 70% might have been taught that self-care is just another word for selfish. And 30% of folks who are in our poll today said that that's not true. But I think right now, especially in our climate and especially in our day and age, I'm going to stop sharing these for a second. Super. It's often difficult to distinguish between self-care and selfish. So I want to just take a moment to think about that. Making sure our own needs are met allows us to be better equipped to take care of others, right? Taking care of your own needs, recognizing them, acknowledging, allows you to do the work to bring yourself to calm, to grounding, and then takes out some of the expectation that others will know what you need or should take care of you when you haven't even potentially been able to identify your own needs. So let's look a little more at self-care. Self-care itself has far-reaching benefits for you and those in your life. Because when we model taking care of self, of meeting own needs, of doing healthy things to bring ourselves to calm, to bring us pleasure and joy, then we exude that presence to others. Self-care isn't done with any intention to harm others as well. In fact, it in and of itself can be healing not only for yourself, but for those you are living and loving with and around. Selfishness, on the other hand, prevents you from giving of yourself. Self-care enables us to feel that our bucket is full enough so that we can share our resources with others. Selfishness excludes, self-fullness includes. Self-care is meeting your own needs and not expecting others to. And it builds resiliency. It builds our inner ability to bounce back in times of stress. Self-care plus really good boundaries, which we'll talk about in another webinar, really does equal love. Self-love and love for others. And as we hear over and over again, especially now, resiliency is the most important defense we have to manage stress. So let's spend some more time looking at what are the things that impact our resiliency potentially in not the best and most helpful way. And then what are some more techniques we can use to build our resiliency? This is a little time bomb of stressors that we all might be experiencing in our lives, from issues with fear and tension and anxiety and being overtired and feeling despair, tense and worrying and depression and pressure to be or perform in a particular way. And now I'm going to invite Ebony to put a poll up which asks, how many of us in our webinar today are experiencing any of these stressors? And it's a multiple choice and multiple answers, so you can answer as many of them as fit your experience.
So it looks like a lot of people feel anxiety and overwhelm are the stressors that they're currently experiencing, but we've had a lot of results for all of them. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I think, is there anything under sadness?
There's
What's
a lot under
underneath?
sadness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So all of us in different ways, and maybe some of these were present for us before the impact of COVID-19 and the pandemic. Maybe they have been exacerbated, most likely have been by this. And just recognizing that and seeing that you're not alone, that we're not alone in a number of these stressors, can be in some way relieving, you know? So let's spend a little time now. I'm going to close this poll, looking at two layers that the current crisis has escalated potentially for many of us. And one of those layers is trauma. I'm not going to say a lot about trauma today, but I do want to just point out that a very simple definition of trauma is an experience or input or activation that is too much, too soon, and too fast. And in many ways, this current crisis definitely has those layers. We had too much, too soon, too quickly, and it has continued impacting our lives on multiple levels. And what we know about trauma is that it lives in our sensory and hormonal systems. We often don't remember trauma in a very chronological order, but something that happens, a sound, a noise, a smell, a touch, can instantly, like that, bring back the experience that was the original trauma. And we might not even remember it, but we certainly feel it. Our senses are heightened, and we get that rush of adrenaline, our cortisol goes up. And so trauma plays out in the theater of the body. But the beautiful thing about that is it is also healed in the theater of the body. So we'll spend some time today practicing self-care techniques that are very much somatic or body-based, because in that way we can address our anxiety that's maybe been around for a while, but also we can start to mitigate and maybe lessen some of the impact of the trauma we may be experiencing during the pandemic. Because in the words of Bessel van der Kolk, we remember trauma less in words and more with our feelings and our bodies. So let's look at a number of grounding techniques that allow us to be present more in the body and to recognize our activation level and bring us back to a sense of calm. I'm going to have us practice one particular one, but I want to talk through a few others. So one on this list is orienting to the present moment. And orienting to the present moment is just that, just what it sounds like. It means recognizing where I am right now in this moment in time. When we worry, when we have anxiety, when we're overcome by a trauma cue, we're either in the past, remembering something that's happened then, or worrying and anticipating the future. So orienting and bringing our body back to the present moment through our senses can be a very calming activity. and can allow our senses, all of them, to calm down. What does that mean? It basically means cluing in with where you are right now, looking around the room and seeing, taking in 5 things, naming 5 things you see, listening and cluing into 4 things you might be hearing, smelling and cueing into 3 things that you might be smelling, tactile, cluing into 2 things you might be feeling, and then 1 taste, potentially what's 1 taste. So for me, I would say right now I can see the computer monitor. I look out the window and see some beautiful trees. I see my grandmother's old clock on the piano in front of me. I can smell that my partner is starting to cook lunch, which is great because I feel my stomach growling. And I also smell the flower that's at my foot. I hear my voice in the headphones, but I also can hear the air conditioning behind me. And I'm tasting the tea that I just took a sip of. You can do the same thing with your favorite activity. If there's something you love to do that gives you a sense of peace and calm, you can bring yourself to that and playing it through your mind as if you were watching yourself in a movie. I love to walk on the canal path where I live. And so I can see myself taking a walk and noticing what I see and what I smell and what I taste and what I hear. I can also ground by touching objects. So picking up my teacup, or this mug, it's not really a cup, right? And just touching it, feeling the warmth of it on my fingers, the solid weight of it, noticing the seat beneath me. Touching objects grounds us in the moment as well. Another beautiful grounding activity is just noticing and focusing on your feet on the ground, really tapping them in and getting in touch with the stability of the earth, recognizing it is always there, always available to you. And a few others that are listed here. After today's webinar, you'll be able to access explanation of all of these grounding techniques, excuse me, on our website under self-care tools. But right now I'm going to teach you a specific grounding technique called the 5-step self-holding exercise. So we'll do this much like we did the reset breath. And what that means is I'm going to talk you through for a minute or 2. I'll ask you to take that SUDS level, checking in with your stress level right now. Then I will talk you through the exercise, and then we'll check in again with that stress level. All right, so you can look at the computer screen for the pictures, or you can allow your eyes to rest on something that gives you pleasure, or you could gently allow your eyes to close. And the first thing you're going to do is to take both your hands and put them on the sides of your head, cradling right above your ears, thinking about how you are creating edges and a container for your thoughts. Feel the sensation between your hands as you take in 2 reset breaths at your own pace. Just allowing your exhale to be a little longer than your inhale. When you're ready, you can move your hands, one to the front on your forehead and one to the back of your head. Feel the container around your thinking. Feel the sensation of your hands on your head, creating a safe container for your thoughts as you inhale 2 reset breaths, allowing the exhale to be a little longer than the inhale. Next is one hand on the forehead and the other hand placed on the heart. See if you can sense any sensations between your hand and your heart as you inhale and exhale 2 reset breaths. Next is a hand on the heart and a hand on your belly. Your hand on your belly can be over or near your belly button. And then just bringing your awareness to your heart and your belly. Notice what sensations you feel between your hands on your heart and your belly as you breathe in and out 2 reset breaths. Step 5. One hand on the back of the head, where your head meets the base of your spine, where you would cradle a newborn. And one hand on your solar plexus, so a little higher than your belly, right on the point above your belly, where your rib cage is. And then when you're ready, connecting any sensation from the hand on your neck and lower skull to the hand on your solar plexus, and taking 2 reset breaths. And then whenever that's complete for you and in your own time and space, allowing your hands to come down. And before you come back to the presentation, just checking in again with that SUDS level, that scale of 0 to 10. Where are you now compared to where you were before we started? About the same? Lower? Higher? What techniques, if any, have helped reduce that level? Which have helped them stay the same? Nice. Thank you for playing with me with that. I want to talk a minute or so as well about grief. It's likely that we are all experiencing grief right now. A collective grief that the world has changed, and we're uncertain of when, if, or how it will ever be the same again. Anticipatory grief of what's still to come, some of us on a very, very real, palpable level with friends and family or colleagues who may be ill at the moment, or just that uncomfortable feeling of what will happen and will there be another shoe that drops. Many of us are experiencing grief, just the loss of normalcy, of being able to jump in the car and go somewhere without a mask and gloves, or loss of connection, not being able to go over to a neighbor's and say hi, or sit with a friend and hold their hand. Even, and importantly too, the loss of financial stability that many folks are experiencing. We are all likely grieving right now. But grief, when we can name it, then we can allow ourselves to feel it in little islands of sensation, which allows it, like the breath, to move through us so that we can, in time, integrate it and make meaning of it. One really lovely self-care bucket of activities that can help with understanding and making meaning of things is journaling. So I'm going to share a few styles of journaling with you, and then one particular written technique you can use. So journaling can look all sorts of ways, right? You can just sit down and write stream of consciousness in the moment, whatever's in your head, doodles, drawings, pictures, words. It doesn't have to be complete sentences. It's only for you, right? So stream of consciousness, journaling in the moment is lovely. If you don't like to write, or you feel like I never have enough time, then set a timer, a 1-minute journal, a 2-minute journal, a 5-minute, anything goes journaling, or 1, 2, or 5 minutes focused on a particular topic. You could journal a letter to a person that you may never send, but it might help you bring awareness to a situation between you and this person, or help you better express something you've been trying to say. You could write a letter to your future self about who you are now, or about what you want to have learned and experienced living through this time and what you want that future self to have taken from it. You could also do a journal and list the things that are weighing you down in this moment. Put it aside and then come back to it and look at it through the lens of, are all these worries mine? Or am I holding and carrying some of these worries that might belong to someone else? You could do a small goal journal, and Ebony has some great resources to share about how you can do small goal journaling. Maybe even a picture reflection, just taking a picture, or if you see something on YouTube or in a meme and you want to just journal something out, that would be cool too. And this is a resiliency checklist that has been developed for the Princeton Center for Mind Body, and it allows you to journal the buckets of self-care that we want to be thinking about every day, from showering and doing physical self-care activities to checking in with senses, to exercise, to reaching out to friends, to journaling about something that brings you joy and something that you're looking forward to. So all of these are ways to journal without having to sit down with a big blank piece of paper in front of you without knowing what the heck you're going to write. Next, we're going to start to pull a number of these techniques together in creating a personal stress profile. So we started off talking about what is self-care versus selfish. We looked at some potential stressors that we all might be experiencing. Talked a little bit about grief and about trauma. Now we're going to look at an infographic that talks about how stress might manifest in different aspects of our life, from body-based experiences of stress like headaches or frequent infections, or tense muscles, exhaustion, or inability to stop moving, breathlessness, to symptoms that are emotionally based, like feeling out of sorts or irritable, or just not caring about anything, or feeling alone, like nobody gets you or nobody understands you, or just that weird felt sense of something's off, but I don't quite know what, to stressors in our mind like worry or confused thinking, or inability to make good decisions, or inability to make a decision, or making a decision too quickly that then you go back and say, oh, maybe not so great. And then stress symptoms that are more behaviorally based, like being accident prone or clumsy. That's one of mine. When I'm more stressed, I fall a lot and get hurt. So trying to stay in this chair without falling on the floor, so far so good. It can also look like loss of appetite, loss of wanting to connect with others in terms of touch or sex. It could be drinking too much, drugging too much, smoking too much, sleeping too much, or not sleeping enough. All of these could be clues to your stressors, but everyone has their own stress blueprint. So this is a tool that can help you start to tease out your stress profile. And if you'd like, again, this will be available. You could probably find it online, or just jot down these four characteristics and columns. First would be your stress factor. So what causes you stress? And then what are your warning signs of stress overload? I don't know if I mentioned it before, but for me, my canary in the coal mine is my hands. I start to get this kind of action happening, some really tense hands, which then leads to me picking at my cuticle, which then, if I haven't caught it in time, leads to yucky cuts on my cuticles, and then my fingers hurt. So now that I have gotten a little bit better, although that varies by week, I can start to clue in when my fingers start to curl, do some of these techniques that we have been exploring today, and then maybe not get to the point where I'm ripping off my cuticles. Bottom left box, unhealthy stress management strategies. So, I don't always like to use those terms, healthy and unhealthy. I think anything can become healthy or unhealthy, right? Exercise is a great stress management strategy. But when we use it to the extent that we're exhausting our body and just depleting our energy and joy, then it may be on the unhealthy side. But knowing what you really believe and feel are unhealthy versus your healthy stress management strategies can go a long way in putting those healthy ones into play when you start to recognize those warning signs. So if you all are open to it, what I'd love is if you could share one of your favorite positive stress management techniques in the Q&A box right now. So take a minute and just think about, what does your heart, soul, mind, body see as a joyful experience when you're trying to reduce your stress? Some people cook, some people run, some people walk, some people love to look at pictures of dogs, some people like to look up jokes online. And in a second, as your answers come in, Ebony's going to share some of those with us.
All right, so someone said walking. That's one of mine personally, absolutely. Oh, a lot of people are saying walking. Pet therapy, connecting with cats, connecting with dogs. Yoga. Music. Mm-hmm.
What's one of your favorites, Ebony, besides walking? I'm calling you out on the spot. Sorry.
You know, I like reconnecting with things that I loved as a child. So I recently bought some skates. Thinking of setting up one of those blow-up pools like it's the 90s. So
that's awesome. I love it.
nostalgia.
Oh, I have a slip and slide in my shed.
That's
I
even
love slip
better.
and slide.
Yeah.
Well, no, we could do both, and then we'll slip and slide, and then we can go sit in the pool. You know,
And
you and yours
lounge.
and mine, and we'll be on video because we got a social distance. That's great.
Right.
I love the pool. Excellent. That's a great one. I'm starting a garden. We'll see what happens. I have a black thumb, so this is going to be a really interesting experience, digging in the dirt. We'll see. Any other ones that came in? And if not, we'll just move on.
Nope. That's a lot of people are saying walking and pets.
Super.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you sharing. Those are some great ideas. Okay, so now we're going to just do a series of also self-care strategies or techniques that are body-based. And what I'll ask you to do is similar to what we did with the 5-step hug and the reset breath. I'm going to share each one, and then before and after, I'll just ask you to check in with your stress level and see what you notice. So our first technique is a containment setting neurovascular hold. And what this does is it suspends the stress reaction by preventing blood flow from leaving the forebrain. So when we're stressed out, what happens is our body gets a signal of anxiety, stress. It reads it as danger. It says, thinking brain, we don't need you. You can go offline because we need to fight, flight, freeze, or run, right? Like I said, that flee. So what this does is bring blood back into the forebrain, into our thinking brain. And what does blood carry? Oxygen. Oxygen fuels and turns our brain back on. So we're going to practice that. So if you'd like to play, you can check in with that stress level, 0 to 10 right now. And then you can allow your eyes to close or your eyes to focus on something that gives you joy. And you're going to take one hand, doesn't matter which one, place it on your forehead. The other one, back of the neck, just like we did before, where you would cradle an infant. It should feel peaceful and calming. And if any of these things do not, then don't do them. And then you're going to take 2 or 3 reset breaths. And this time you're going to visualize the breath going to this hand on the forehead. Now, some people like to do that by just saying breath, breath, breath as they breathe in, sending that breath to the forehead. Some people like to visualize a color, like blue, ocean. Some people like to see a wave as if they were at the shore. Whatever works for you. Right now, 3 to 4 breaths, sending that breath to the hand on the forehead. And then exhaling whatever it is you don't want and you don't need. And then whenever that is complete for you, you can allow your hands to come down, and you can check in with that scale of 0 to 10. Nice. The next one is also a containment setting hold. This is a little bit different. It's like a hug. It matters what hands is which on this one. So you're going to take your right hand and put it underneath your left armpit. And you're going to take your left hand and put it on top of your right arm. And then you can either gently rock side to side while you're tapping back and forth. If you don't like the rocking, you can just tap. If you don't like the tapping, you can just rock. This also suspends the stress reaction. 2 or 3 breaths in this position, whichever variation works for you. And when that's complete, you can put your hands down, check in with that stress level again. I'll share that this is not my favorite because most people say it reminds them of a hug. To me, it reminds me of a straitjacket. That's a story for another day, but I don't love that one. I say that because some of these work sometimes you hate, some of them you love. It's really about just finding what works for you. There is no right or wrong. There is no perfect technique. What's perfect is what works perfectly for you in that moment. And the more we diversify and have as many tools in our toolbox as possible, the better off we'll be. This is the butterfly tap. It's grounded in some trauma processing technique called EMDR. It provides our body with bilateral stimulation, which turns left and right brain on and allows us to process information in the best, healthiest, fullest mind-body connection. So what you're going to do with that is you're going to make a butterfly with your hands. Kids love this. And you're going to place the palms over that part in your forehead, chest, where if you kind of go like that, it makes this beautiful resonant noise. And then your fingertips will be up on your collarbones. And then you tap back and forth on the collarbones like the wings of a butterfly. The butterfly tap. Breathing in 2 or 3 breaths. Taught this in a corporate training once, and then the CEO called and sent a follow-up email saying they do this in staff meetings all the time. So take this to your work setting. It might work out well there. Butterfly tap. When that's complete for you, you can put your hands down, check in with that stress level. So when do we practice these activities? When do we practice self-care? When do we practice some of these body-based techniques? Well, whenever. We just practice. Most importantly, practice when you're not cued. Practice when you're not outside your window of tolerance. Practice when you're not feeling stressors. It creates that muscle memory so that when you start to feel that energy or that activation rising, your brain will have the capacity to pull from one of these techniques. Practice for longer and longer periods of time. Some people say, I hate meditation. I don't want to sit for 20 minutes. Oh, I don't either. So start with 10 seconds, 30 seconds. Think about that reset breath we did in the beginning and how even after 30 seconds, your stress level might have taken the slightest little tiniest dip. That's amazing. You did that with 30 seconds. And then practice. And then practice techniques that fit your learning style and what makes your heart sing. And then practice. And then practice as soon as you notice a shift. And then practice. Did I say practice? I think I did. Did I say practice, Ebony? I think so. Okay, I'm going to quickly share 2 lists of ways that we can practice self-care in a variety of buckets of life. So on this tree infograph, you see lots of different ways to think about self-care, from activist practice, which is volunteering or pilgrimage or vigils and marches or bearing witness. Right now, that's one of the most powerful ways that we can do self-care for ourselves and others, is just by being present and bearing witness with each other's experience. generative and regenerative practices like yoga or deep breathing or prayer, ritual cyclical practices like recognizing a space of rest, whether it's Shabbat or Sunday or a vision quest or doing a sweat lodge or building an altar, a spiritual place in your home. Relational practices like dialogue or storytelling, creation practices, singing, chanting, having a mantra, as we said earlier, movement practices like Qigong, Tai Chi, and stillness practices like insight meditation or sitting meditation. These are all ways to build your self-care toolbox, as well as engaging in deep breathing, prayer, exercise, yoga, mindfulness, body scan, which we hopefully will have time for at the very end of our session today. And then some more self-care tools for work or home. These again will be available if you don't have a lot of time right now to look at it, because I'm going to switch the slide. You'll have it available on our website. So I want to spend a few moments just talking about how we can, in community, create a culture of self-care and resiliency with our family, with our friends, with community. And I think the answer is simple, but not always easy. And I know some of you hear me say that all the time and say, why, I wish you wouldn't say that. But these things can be simple. It's just not easy to change how we've done business or how we've engaged in life for a while. So recognizing that is a powerful first step. And these are some other steps that we can take. This is the peace mnemonic for creating community care around resiliency and self-care practices. And it stands for P is providing information. Sharing information like we're doing today. What is self-care? What's the difference between self-care and being selfish? And having that information shared with your family, with your kids, with your colleagues and friends. Educating each other, those same buckets of people on different self-care techniques. Or what is the difference between selfish and selfful? Acknowledging is such a powerful technique and tool for all of us. And that's just about acknowledging feelings. All feelings are fine. No feeling is bad. It's not the feeling that's bad. It's often the thought that comes along with it that makes us feel bad. But sad, mad, even shame, all our feelings had a purpose. They protected us. They kept us safe in unsafe times. So acknowledging, I see how sad I feel. Often we're worried it's going to overwhelm us and flood us. And really what tends to happen is that it gets quieter or lets us know there's more information and work to be done. Create is about creating opportunities to practice in ways that integrate it into our daily life, whether it's with your kids waking up every morning and doing something as a self-care technique, or with your team at work, having every meeting start with a check-in that addresses some self-care tool, creating space and, for lack of a better word, institutionalizing it into your work or life flow is crucial in showing that you value this. And lastly, being an example or a model, right? We are a parallel process to everyone who we live and love and learn with. When we do a reset breath, that breath calms not only ourselves, but the people around us. As we do, we provide that example and that healthy modeling for others. If you want more information about this peace model, we'll be going into it more in depth when we do a webinar at the end of the month on working with our staffs or people that we engage with in a work setting. So that's just a little taste. Hope it wasn't too quick, but I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. So the last two parts of our time together today are just addressing any thoughts that you'd like to share or questions you might have. And then I'm hoping we'll have time and you can stay if you can and log off if you can't. But we'll be sharing a 8-minute body scan meditation that's on a YouTube channel that you're welcome to access as well. So before we move into that last visualization, I'm wondering if there are any thoughts that you all would like to share today before we end, or any questions you might have. And I'm going to mute myself and let Ebony take over.
So yeah, we'd appreciate any questions, any thoughts, like Tracey said, and you can put them in the Q&A section. If you're worried about anonymity, you can check that box to submit it anonymously, but we won't be posting anyone's questions. We're going to verbally answer them, okay? So I'll give you all a second to sort of put some questions in there, and then we'll go ahead and start answering them. Okay, looks like we already got some. So first question that I see is, what is the best form of self-care?
I love that question. Thank you, whoever asked that question. You rock. I think that's a perfect question because it has the best answer, which is there is no best. What's best is to have a self-care strategy, whatever it is that works for you, right? The best self-care strategy is the strategy that you will go to. And maybe that's about diversifying your toolbox so that you always have something that you can access. Sometimes if your self-care strategy is only watching video games and you're out in the world, you might not be able to do that, or playing video games, right? So having a diverse toolbox of self-care techniques that hit all the different senses is really the most important and best self-care strategy. Thanks for that question.
Thanks for that answer. All right, so we do have another one. I feel like this is a pretty good one. What are ways I can remind myself to focus on self-care if I'm afraid I might have the virus? That's come up a lot for me in my work. Mm-hmm.
What are ways that I can remind myself to practice in self-care?
Yeah.
If I'm afraid that I have the virus?
Yeah.
Especially? Yeah, there's so many levels there, right? There's just acknowledging that fear that I might be not well. There's how do I remember what are healthy things to do when I have that fear or concern or worry, right? And then it's how do I choose to engage in the practice? So I think, virus or no, although that's a really critical piece for us right now, it's looking at what are the things that help you remember how to do anything in your life. For some people, it's writing a note. For some people, it's setting a reminder in your phone to do these things on a regular basis. Some people like to wear a bracelet or a rubber band, and that every time they see it, they remember to practice one tiny little technique. Sometimes it's enlisting a self-care buddy, especially if I'm worried about my health and wellness. I might want to enlist someone who we check in with each other on a regular basis. Hey, how are you? How are you feeling? Let's practice a self-care technique together. Maybe it is making a list like that journal thing that we looked at earlier and writing down 4 or 5 different techniques and carrying it around. Or I've even had people put it as a screensaver on their phone, right? Something that's easy to access. Another really helpful technique is to hook it to something you're already doing. So usually you brush your teeth. I mean, I try at least once a day. Sometimes I get twice, but at least once a day. I know I'm going to brush my teeth. I'll do something with that at that point. Using the restroom, that usually happens. Bio breaks happen a couple times a day. So always having that list nearby there and practicing something right after. I'm sure that you have some that you've shared with friends and clients. What do you say to folks, Ebony?
I use a lot of objective reasoning because I think right now we're getting so caught in our anxiety brain that it's hard for us to re-engage our prefrontal cortex and not be in that amygdala space, which is all of our fight, flight, or freeze stuff. So sort of like encouraging, especially my clients, to look at positive statistics, look at news of, things that are going well, or having people just check in on what's going well in their life. What has been positive this past week or just today or in this moment. I found that helpful.
Yeah, that's fabulous. In fact, I work with a company and that's why we start every meeting, which is with what are the celebrations? What's the good news?
Yeah.
We leave space for recognizing and holding grief and sadness, but we always start with the celebrations. And that's a really great idea, and that you had just said, to just celebrate the positives. Thanks for that.
So you do have one last question. How do you get out of the cycle when you're so anxious that you convince yourself that techniques like breathing and relaxing are pointless? And in parentheses, they put, I think that must happen to more than just me. And I want to validate that. That is a very common feeling. I think we all can identify with that.
Yeah, I think that is a really common feeling and experience, because our bodies are designed to protect us in danger. And so when we feel overwhelmed, our body is going to take over, and it's going to do what it needs to do to survive. And then our big, beautiful cerebral cortex takes over by saying, nothing's going to work. Because what does nothing's going to work give us? It gives us a sense of control, as odd as it is. It says, well, nothing's going to work. There's nothing I can do. We're just going to shut down, right? So I think those techniques that you just mentioned, Ebony, could be really even helpful with this, like recognizing it. Oh, that's that part of me that's trying to have some control in a situation where I don't have control. I wonder if I can ask it to just step aside for a minute and let me try this technique. Or as that earlier slide said, seeing if you can just do an experiment. I'm just going to do an experiment for 30 seconds with this breathing to see what it does. Just gonna notice and kind of bird's eye view it. So I think there's recognizing that that's a normal, universal coping mechanism, and that our bodies automatically go to that nothing's going to work loop. Being able to see it when we can, and just, there it is, that thought that nothing's going to help, even breathing or taking a walk. I think one of those cognitive things that you mentioned, which is, if I can, remind myself that clearly it's always worked. Something's always worked, because I'm sitting here today and I'm still breathing today. So I have a lot of data that says something eventually works, even if it's going to sleep for a little while. And then asking myself if I could just do a little experiment for a little bit of time and notice what that's like. Those are some of the things that come to my mind. I bet there's more maybe that come to your mind.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I usually start with those, but sometimes I even do a bit of decatastrophizing, because that's what this sounds like. Like we're in a place where everything's bad, we're super worried, and we don't know what's going to work. So sort of working with that worst case scenario. So what if I do try this thing and I don't get any relief? What's the worst that can happen? And then kind of working yourself down, kind of like being devil's advocate for yourself about what's likely to happen. And if it all comes true, will I be okay in a week? Will I be okay in a month? Will I be okay in a year? You know, to sort of help take the power out of that negative space that we all enter.
That's super. And I think there is or will be a decatastrophizing worksheet that people could access as well under that self-care tab.
On our website, yep.
Yeah, cool. That's great. I love that. Well, I want to thank everybody for being with us today, and I'm hoping you all will stay so you can have one more opportunity to engage in a multisensory self-care activity that Ebony's going to share and tell you about now. And if not, we look forward to seeing you again at Ebony's webinar next Friday night. I think that's right, next Friday night, right?
Yes.
Relationships and quarantine. She'll tell you about that now too. Thanks.
All right. So we're going to pull this up, and then we're going to participate with you just on solidarity. So this is our body scan meditation that we have on our website, and feel free to go ahead and participate with us as we close our eyes and just check in with ourselves. Let's see. Make sure that the sound is on. Okay, here we go.
Hello. Today we'll practice a body scan meditation.
During times like these, where we may be experiencing greater stress and anxiety than usual, we can get so caught up in that stress that we don't even realize the physical discomfort we're experiencing. A body scan meditation is a good way to release this tension that you might not even realize you're experiencing, and to allow yourself an opportunity to get in touch with those places in your body that are experiencing calm or peace or groundedness. By paying attention to all the parts of our body and all of our body sensations in a gradual, sequenced way, we can bring our awareness to the calm, grounded parts and send calming energy to the anxious parts. So if you're ready, let's begin. First, see if you can position yourself as comfortably as you can, shifting your weight so that you've allowed your body to be fully supported. Try to arrange it so your head, neck, and spine are straight. And taking a deep cleansing breath and exhaling as fully as you can. And then another breath deep into the belly. And again, breathing out as completely as you can. And gently allowing yourself to turn your attention inward. Focusing inside for just this next little while to see how your body feels. To take a gentle, curious inventory of your insides. Just a friendly interest in what's happening in there. Interested in your own well-being, looking to see how you are for just this moment, what your energy level is like now, noticing your mood, and still breathing gently and easily, and allowing yourself to look inward with the honest, neutral eye of a camera. And feeling where your body might be tight or tense or sore, and where it feels loose and open. Just allowing your awareness to move around the insides of your body, starting perhaps with your head. Checking to see how it feels inside your head, whether it's tight and congested or comfortable and open. And moving down into your neck and shoulders, just curious about any tightness or tension or heaviness there. Bringing your awareness into your chest, continuing to breathe gently and smoothly, and sensing how it feels around your heart. Just being aware of any sensations there, heavy or tight or spacious and open. Moving your awareness into the length of the back, noting how your back feels all along the spine, all the way down to your tailbone. And coming back around to see how you feel inside your belly. Continuing to breathe gently, easily, noticing what is happening all through your abdomen. Just bringing your awareness in a friendly but detached way to any tension or fear that might be held there. And moving your awareness back to places in your body where you feel calmer, quieter, grounded. Then moving your awareness down into your pelvis, seeing how it feels along your entire pelvic floor, down into your legs, feeling any tightness or rigidity or looseness in the legs, all the way down through your thighs, knees, calves, feet, to the very tips of your toes. Just doing this gentle, curious inventory of the insides of your body, noting where it might feel denser and heavier, and where it feels looser, lighter, freer. Just taking a couple more deep breaths, taking your breath into any uncomfortable place, and breathing the warm energy of your breath into the heart of any discomfort, then breathing it out. Again, sending the breath into the core of any tightness, letting it warm and loosen and soften all around and through it, and then breathing the discomfort out. Just taking this space to reacquaint yourself with this body of yours and listening to it and acknowledging it and allowing your awareness to sink down into it, allowing your spirit to settle all the way down into your body, softly and easily rolling into every corner like a gentle, misty fog. Just letting yourself feel the fullness of it, breathing fully and easily into every corner of your being, softly acknowledging the sore, weary places and the strong, solid places. No praise, no blame, just noting and remembering how good it can feel to connect to those strong, solid, calm, grounded places. Choosing one place where you feel the most grounded, calm, even neutral, and bringing your full awareness to that part of your body, breathing in that sense of neutrality or calm or peace, and breathing out peace into the universe. And so now, whenever you are ready, taking one more breath in, you can now gently allow your eyes to open, coming back into the space where you are whenever you are ready, and knowing in a deep place that you are better for taking this time for yourself. And so you are.
So
Well,
thank
thank you,
you.
everyone. Thanks for being
Yeah.
with us. I hope you have a peaceful, grounded self-care weekend. And we'll see you again next Friday at
7.
7 for
Maintaining relationships while in quarantine.
Have a great afternoon.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.